For those of you who are familiar with my channel, you may notice that this is a different type of video. I decided to start a new series where I take you along and show you my sculpting process. This will help me fill in a space between project uploads and give me a chance to spend some time practicing and experimenting in Blender without feeling guilty. Plus, it gives you all some sneak peeks, so I think it's a win-win situation. For those of you who are new here and have no idea what I'm talking about, hi, I sculpt and 3D print characters and dolls. If this sounds interesting, you should definitely stick around. The first thing I'm doing is fixing and updating some of my female body files. I noticed that some of the sides of the parts that hold the joints were kind of thin and weren't so easy to print out of filament without breaking. I got annoyed after running into this problem for like 6 dolls straight, so I think it's about time to fix that now. I also added some more leg and muscle definition. It's stylized, but it makes the pieces a bit more interesting to look at. The specific file I'm working on now is what I call my tall body, but I want to incorporate more body types in my characters, so you'll definitely see me working on a more curvy and muscular body at some point in the future too. If you can't tell, I really like sculpting in Blender, so I'm glad I finally came around to making this into a series on the channel. Let me know what you might want to see more of in these types of videos. I would be willing to answer some questions if you guys have any, so if that's something you might be interested in, make sure you leave some in the comments and I'll answer them in the next sculpting video. The fixes weren't super dramatic, and probably I'm the only one that'll be able to tell the difference, so let's move on to something a bit more interesting. It's kind of been a trend in the doll community lately to at some point redesign a Monster High character and make a doll in your own style. I love seeing how different people interpret the characters, so I decided to make one of my own. The main characters like Dracula, Cleo, and Claudine have already been done several times, so I decided I'm going to redesign Nefera, which is one of my personal favorite characters. I am keeping the face in my style, but I'm using Nefera's original face mold as a reference, so she still looks somewhat like herself. I actually have an uncustomized Nefera I got for my birthday, so it'll be kind of fun to see the two next to each other. Since I started working on a base head, I have to make it so I can actually use it. Right now it's pretty much a completely solid chunk of clay. This part took me a while to get used to, but I have a collection of shapes already prepped from previous projects. I use them to hollow out the inside of the head, make the eye sockets, and the spots where I put the magnets later. I already know someone's going to point out the elf ears. I know, Nefera is not an elf. I'll probably go back and change that later. Today I just wanted to get the main parts of the face sculpted. Ears are not exactly my best friend, which you'll see later. I pretty much avoid sculpting them whenever I can. I also just finished a class where I had to sculpt an ear in Maya, which was, let's just say, a far from pleasant experience. You'll probably at some point hear me going on a rant about how much I hate working in Maya. But anyway, this is how the face turned out. Now on to the next sculpting project. Yeah, you read that right, this head is for a mermaid character. It's Mermaid, and I felt bad about letting this month pass without even attempting to make a mermaid. At this point, I'm not sure she'll be done in May, but I'm kind of determined to make a mermaid either way, so whatever happens, I officially declare that Mermaid is extended at least another week. The first 2 weeks of May, I was stuck doing schoolwork, so I really didn't get to tap into my mermaid obsession like I would have liked. The plans for this mermaid's face were pretty much non-existent, even though I've already sketched and designed the rest of the body. All I really knew for sure is that I wanted her to have a third eye and these little horn-like things on her forehead. Making it up as I go is pretty much the main theme of this face. At first I thought I wanted her to be really eerie looking, which is why I cut the ears, nose, and mouth off. But then she started looking more robotic and stiff-like, and not really fitting the vibe I wanted. So I later go back and add on her nose and mouth. I might try one more time off camera, so once I share the process of me actually making the doll, it'll be kinda a surprise which direction I went with. In my mind, this character is not really emotional, she just kinda swims around desperately trying to mind her own business and avoid talking to other people. Which if people I know in real life are watching this, they would basically say I just described myself, but hey, that's beside the point. Since she lives underwater, I think it kinda makes sense for her not to have a mouth or nose, unless she's in the siren business, in that case that's a whole different vibe. At this point I should be moving on to the ears. I originally cut them off thinking I was going to have enough energy to make a new pair from scratch, but then I got lazy and remembered I actually have to be in the mood to sculpt ears, so I just reused a pair from a different head, which some of you may recognize. I didn't want to go too crazy with the design of the ears just because of the nature of this character, so I just reshaped them and make them fit the vibe better. And with a few more touches, this wraps up the last thing I wanted to sculpt today. I hope you all enjoyed watching the sculpting process. I have some more intense projects coming up, so make sure you stick around. Like always, thank you so much for watching, stay sweet, and I'll see you all next time.